The hum of the busy cafe buzzed around me like a familiar tune as I settled into the corner booth, my heart racing with anticipation. It had been years since I last saw Matteo, the soccer prodigy who had shot up through the ranks to become one of the sport's most electrifying players. Our paths had crossed often in our youth, playing on the same muddy fields, dreaming big dreams. Now, after what felt like a lifetime, we were about to reconnect, not on a field, but over coffee in his hometown cafe, where his journey had begun. The bell above the door jingled, snapping me out of my reverie. Matteo entered, his presence as commanding as ever. Despite the years and the fame, his smile was just as I remembered, warm and genuine. "Alex! It's been too long, my friend," he exclaimed, striding over with open arms. We embraced, the familiarity of our old friendship enveloping us. As we sat down, the initial awkwardness melted away, replaced by a comfortable camaraderie. I began sharing snippets of my life, the mundane job, the city living, and, inevitably, the family I had started. "My wife, Elena, she's wonderful," I found myself saying, my voice tinged with pride as I pulled out my phone to show him our wedding photo. "We got married 3 years ago. Here, look." Matteo's eyes flickered with interest as he took the phone, his brow furrowing slightly as he looked at the picture. A moment of silence stretched, thick with unspoken words, before he handed back the phone. "She looks lovely," he started, his voice hesitant. "Alex, this might sound crazy, but I think I know Elena." The cafe seemed to spin a little as his words sank in. "You know her?" "Yes, we've been seeing each other for about 3 months. Matteo's admission was a punch to the gut. The room tilted, the clatter of cups and chatter of patrons fading into a dull, distant roar. I stared at him, disbelief clouding my vision. "What are you saying, Matteo?" He looked pained, his eyes searching mine. "I didn't know she was your wife, Alex. I swear. If I had?" "Stop." My voice was a whip, cutting through the burgeoning noise of my thoughts. Betrayal, sharp and bitter, welled up inside me. "She told me she was visiting her sister on the weekends." Matteo leaned forward, his expression earnest. "I'm so sorry, my friend. This is the last thing I wanted to happen." The silence that followed was suffocating. We sat, 2 old friends, united again by a shared pain neither of us had foreseen. As the initial shock faded, a cold, hard resolve began to form between us. We were in this tangled mess together now, and somehow, we had to find our way out. "Revenge," Matteo said suddenly, his voice low and steady. "We need to make things right, Alex." Revenge. The word echoed in my mind, a dark whisper. Was it really the path I wanted to take? Yet, as I looked at my old friend, his determination mirrored my inner turmoil. "We plan it together," I said, the words tasting like ash. "No more lies. No more secrets." Matteo nodded, his jaw set. "No more. She has to know she can't play with people's lives." The pact was sealed with a somber toast, our coffee cups clinking in the quiet cafe. As we plotted, the weight of my shattered trust and our brewing scheme settled around us like a cloak. This was just the beginning. The next day dawned bleak and grey, as if the sky itself mirrored the turmoil in my heart. I couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. Every moment was consumed with the echo of betrayal. But there was something else now, determination, fueled by the plan Matteo and I had crafted. We decided to meet at a small, discreet park away from prying eyes, where we would add precision to our plan. As I waited, a light drizzle began to fall, the cold droplets a stark contrast to the fire burning inside me. Matteo arrived with 2 others in tow, his cousin, Luca, a wiry man with sharp eyes, and his friend, Sarah, whom I recognized as a former journalist. They were to be our allies in this twisted game. "Alex, this is Luca and Sarah." "They're in," Matteo introduced briskly, his tone brooking no argument. "Luca's good with tech, and Sarah, well, she knows how to uncover truths." Sarah extended her hand, her grip firm. "I've dealt with cheaters before." We'll find out everything we need to expose her, she promised, her eyes hard with resolve. Luca nodded, his gaze assessing. I can set up surveillance, track her movements and conversations. If she's leading a double life, we'll find the proof. We huddled under an old oak tree, its leaves a shield against the rain and our scheming. First, we need evidence. Luca, I want you to start with her phone and social media, Matteo directed, turning to his cousin. Got it. I'll need her devices for a few hours. Can you handle that, Alex? Luca asked, his voice low. I can get her phone tonight. She always leaves it charging when she showers, I replied, the plan cementing itself in my mind. And I'll dig into her background, see who else she might be involved with, any patterns of behavior we're missing, Sarah added, pulling out a small notebook and scribbling notes. Our meeting was a whirlwind of plotting and strategizing. With each suggestion, with each nod of agreement, I felt a step removed from the man who had happily shared his wedding photo less than 48 hours ago. Now, I was a co-conspirator in a plot for revenge. As we parted ways, the drizzle had ceased, but the chill lingered. I walked home, my path unclear, my purpose poisoned but precise. Tonight, I would start my role in this dark play, the first act of retribution. That evening, as Elena hummed softly in the shower, I slipped her phone from the charger. The screen lit up, a message flashing briefly before I turned it off, another piece of her betrayal, now in my hands. I left, meeting Luca in a shadowed corner of our neighborhood. Make it quick, I urged, handing over the device. Don't worry, mate. By tomorrow, we'll know everything, Luca assured me, his eyes not meeting mine. I returned home with a heavy heart, the silence of our bedroom screaming in my ears. Lying awake next to Elena, I stared at the ceiling, the weight of impending betrayal pressing down on me. What had we become? What would we become by the end of this sordid affair? As the night deepened, so did my resolve. There was no turning back now. The morning after I handed Elena's phone to Luca, the air between us felt charged, heavy with the unspoken. I watched her, her every move now suspect, as she frantically searched for her phone. Have you seen my phone, Alex? Her voice held a hint of desperation that I hadn't noticed before. It must be around somewhere, I muttered, keeping my gaze fixed on my coffee, feeling the weight of deceit like a stone in my stomach. I need it, she insisted, her tone escalating as she rummaged through drawers and cushions. I couldn't help but wonder if her panic was due to more than just being disconnected. Meanwhile, my phone vibrated, a text from Luca. Got something. Meet at noon. The hours until the meeting crawled by, each minute stretching as I oscillated between anger and sorrow. Finally, I found myself back at the park, the same old oak standing stoic as if guarding our conspiracy. Luca was already there, his face grave. Matteo and Sarah arrived shortly after, their expressions equally tense. What did you find? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Luca pulled out a series of printouts and laid them on the bench. It's worse than we thought, he began, his fingers tapping a message thread on top. She's not just seeing Matteo, there are at least 2 others. The screenshots were damning, messages, photos, rendezvous plans. Each piece was a blow, a bitter confirmation of Elena's betrayal. How long? I managed to ask, my voice cracking. Months, at least. Maybe longer, Sarah chimed in, her journalistic instincts kicking in as she pointed to a timeline she had created. See, these correspond to her so-called business trips. Matteo placed a hand on my shoulder, a silent show of solidarity. What's the next step, Alex? We expose her, I said firmly, the decision cementing itself amidst the chaos of my emotions. To everyone, her family, her friends. And the other men? Luca asked, a hint of anger in his voice. Them too. They should know who they're really dealing with, Sarah added sharply. We devised a plan, each of us with roles to play. Luca would continue to monitor Elena's communications, ensuring we caught every deceit. Sarah would start drafting the revelations, ready to make them public. Matteo, still reeling from his own sense of betrayal, agreed to confront Elena directly. "And you, Alex?" Matteo's question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of impending action. "I'll confront her first. She deserves to hear it from me," I said, my decision final. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about reclaiming my life. The meeting disbanded with a plan firmly in place, each of us set on our courses. As I walked away, the clarity of purpose did little to ease the heartache. The next few days promised to unravel everything Elena had built on lies. That night, as Elena returned home, phone finally in hand, I watched her lie with ease about where it had been. "Found it in the car," she smiled, oblivious to the storm that was about to break. "Good you found it," I replied, the words tasting like ash as I prepared for the confrontation that would end our marriage and expose her deceit to the world. The endgame was set, and soon, all would be revealed. The days leading up to the final confrontation were a whirlwind of emotion and preparation. Every moment I spent with Elena felt like a knife twisting in my gut. The cheerful facade she wore, oblivious to the storm brewing, made the betrayal even more bitter. We decided that the confrontation would happen at a family gathering. Elena's parents were hosting a dinner party that weekend, a perfect stage to reveal her double life. The plan was risky, but we were all in. On the day of the dinner, I arrived early with Matteo, Luca, and Sara. We parked a few blocks away and walked, the cool evening air failing to soothe my nerves. Elena's parents greeted us warmly, unaware of the impending chaos. Elena arrived shortly after, her smile radiant as she kissed me on the cheek. The normalcy of the scene felt like a cruel joke. Throughout dinner, I barely tasted the food, my mind racing through the steps of our plan. Finally, as dessert was being served, I signaled to Matteo. It was time. "Elena," I began, standing up and silencing the room. "There's something I need to say, something everyone here deserves to know." Elena looked puzzled, a slight frown creasing her forehead. "What is it, Alex?" I pulled out the folder Luca had prepared, filled with evidence of her betrayal. "I know about your affairs, Elena. All of them. Matteo, Lucas, and whoever else you've been seeing behind my back." Gasps erupted around the table. Elena's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing in shock. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, her eyes darting around the room, seeking support and finding none. "Don't lie, Elena," Matteo said, standing beside me. "I'm one of them. We've been seeing each other for months." The room fell into stunned silence. Elena's parents looked horrified, their faces a mix of disbelief and disappointment. Her friends exchanged shocked glances, whispering among themselves. "I trusted you," I continued, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We all did. And you betrayed us. You betrayed me." Elena stood, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Alex, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," Sara cut in, stepping forward. "We have all the proof we need. Your texts, your photos, your lies." Elena's eyes filled with tears, but I felt no sympathy. This was her doing, her choices that led us here. "And it's not just us who know," Luca added, holding up his phone. "We've sent everything to your family, your friends, your colleagues. Everyone knows now." Elena looked around the room, realizing the gravity of her actions. The weight of her deceit was now public, and there was no escaping it. "I never meant to hurt you, Alex," she whispered, her voice breaking. "But you did," I replied coldly. "And now, you have to face the consequences." Elena's father stood, his face red with anger. "Get out of my house," he growled. "You've disgraced us all." With nowhere to turn, Elena fled the room, sobbing. The sound of the front door slamming behind her was a final, tragic note. The aftermath was a blur of apologies and condolences from her family and friends. Matteo, Luca, Sara, and I left together, the chill of the night air a stark contrast to the heated emotions inside. We walked in silence for a while, each lost in our thoughts. Finally, Matteo spoke. "What now, Alex?" I'm leaving, I said, the decision clear in my mind. There's nothing left for me here. I need a fresh start, somewhere far away. Matteo nodded, understanding in his eyes. We'll miss you, but you need to do what's best for you. Sarah hugged me tightly. Take care of yourself, Alex. And remember, not everyone is like her. Luca shook my hand, his grip firm. Stay strong, mate. You'll get through this. We parted ways, each of us forever changed by the events that had transpired. As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of relief. The weight of deception was lifted, and although the pain remained, there was also a glimmer of hope for the future. The next morning, I packed my bags and left the city, blocking Elena on all social media, erasing her from my life. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to walk, free from the shadows of betrayal.